afternoon, and welcome to this month's Self-Build Hour. We are really pleased to be joined by MarieAnne Messenger. As a reminder, we've been doing the Self-Build Hour for a little over a year now, and the point of it really is to bring to you, in the comfort of your own homes or offices or wherever you are right now, detailed information about a specific self-build topic every single month. These sessions are recorded every month, so then the information is available afterwards to watch on demand. The benefit of watching it live is that you're able to post any questions directly to our invited guest expert. So in order to do that, please use the Q&A function. There may be a few of you who do not have that Q&A function available. If so, please feel free to use the chat. And without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. I'm Jenny Chandela. I host this almost every month, myself or someone from AC Architects. I am an architect who is based in our Swindon office. You'll notice behind me that the background is a little bit different today. That's because we have a very busy day at the NSBRC, where there's the annual partner forum ahead of our big January show. So I've put myself in a slightly different location than I usually am. So MarieAnne Messenger is the founder of Studio MA. They offer both interior and landscape design services, and MarieAnne's passion for outdoors led her to the study of landscape design, but it's quite unique to have that combination of interior design and landscape design offerings, and really offers a unique dynamic to the thinking of spaces, both internally and externally. So we're really pleased today that she'll be joining us to provide her specific expertise on landscape design and its importance within the self-build process, and how you can go about engaging with a landscape architect or landscape designer during your project. So with that, I will hand it over to MarieAnne.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to Alan and Jenny for inviting me along today to present the webinar. We really just wanted to share the benefits with you in which landscaping can bring to your project, and emphasise the importance of integrating that design process into your self-build journey. Is that up now, guys? Brilliant. So as Jenny mentioned, I'm MarieAnne, founder of Studio MA. We specialise in landscape design and interior architecture, and this enables us to transform the spaces both inside and out. We're based in East Lothian and have worked through projects throughout Scotland. So our knowledge and expertise enables us to deliver truly unique spaces as we bring together the principles of architecture, interior design and horticulture, and apply these to every project. Our background in interior architecture provides us with a deeper understanding of spatial arrangement and how the design can contribute to the emotional and psychological well-being of people within them by creating harmonious and inspiring surroundings. So we view the exterior space as a continuation of the interior, and we integrate functional areas within the gardens which can be utilised and enjoyed throughout the year. We combine hard landscaping and architectural elements, planting, and also external lighting to create these intimate spaces and rooms within the garden, if you like. As well as a full design service, we also offer planting schemes, and these are really handy where the landscaping may already be in situ if you inherit a mature garden, or also within mature gardens as well. They just may need some editing and refreshing, so that's quite a handy service for those scenarios. We also offer our creative insight sessions, which these are one-to-one consultations where clients can discuss their projects with us. So our focus for today is to highlight the importance of considering the landscaping surrounding your property early on in your project. Often on self-build project, this is an element that can often be overlooked and left to the end of the project, which can leave you with underwhelming results and potentially bland and purely functional solutions. Well-designed landscaping can further enhance the site, add in the character, natural beauty, and also seasonal interest. And I'd like to explain this further as we delve further into the webinar. So today we're going to cover the role of the landscape designer, the guides through the design process and the different stages involved within that process, the benefits of engaging with a landscape designer early in the self-build project, and also key insights into how you can achieve a successful landscape design collaboration. So the role of a landscape designer is, they can play quite a pivotal role in transforming the outdoor space. Whether you're starting with a blank canvas or renovating an existing garden, we can design a unique space that's tailored to your lifestyle and ensure the success of your project. We are often appointed to elevate the project beyond our clients' capabilities and expectations. And our creative vision allows us to create a cohesive design that's tailored to your space and needs, optimizing the functionality and the aesthetics of that space. We can guide you through the design process and give you a greater understanding of how that space can be used. Our ability to conceptualize and innovate bespoke designs will enhance the space and maximize the potential of your site. Our expertise can save you money and time. Our in-depth knowledge of the plants and materials and our on-site site analysis process will ensure that the specifications are fit for purpose and appropriate for your site conditions. Carefully created materials and planting can help connect your interior with your exterior spaces. We will find creative solutions to the challenges such as steep sloping terrain or shaded areas, or sometimes often tricky site access issues, and we will design around these accordingly. The proposed scheme will then be reviewed by us throughout this process, and that will make sure that it will comply with current regulations, and then any necessary planning permissions can be obtained by ourselves to facilitate a smooth approvals process. It's also helpful for clients initially to seek style inspiration from the likes of Instagram, Pinterest, and even magazines. However, sometimes these elements that you're drawn to are sometimes not suitable for the site or attainable within your budget. So we can take these initial ideas as a style guide and as an indication of your preferences and your style, and we can then take these as inspiration and recommend suitable materials that will fit your budget without compromising the quality or the overall look that you're trying to achieve. Our foresight can prevent costly errors also, such as making poor plant choices or impractical layouts, and sometimes even missed opportunities within the site. We will be there to guide you through the process and source and supply elements if that's required, such as outdoor furniture and planting. Most importantly, we can oversee the installation on site as well, as we collaborate with contractors and can act as a bridge between you and the landscapers, ensuring that there is a clear communication, line of communication maintained throughout the build, and that the design is executed as intended. Although each project is unique, our design process remains the same for each project. And for those of you familiar with the architectural process, a similar breakdown of stages are followed for the landscape and design. So these two specialisms align really well together. Key deliverables are achieved for each stage, and these are a summary of what these are. So we always commence each project with an in-depth briefing consultation, and this allows us to understand your preferences, your lifestyle, and also the unique characteristics of the site. And this stage is crucial, as a well-crafted brief is essential for the success of your project, as this allows us to create a bespoke design that perfectly matches your vision. And then from there, Each subsequent stage will then allow us to work up the design in more detail and firm up specifications. And then by the time we get to stage 5, we can also assist with the management, project management, and oversee the installation on site, and ensure the design is executed to the approved design and specifications. The concept design is where the initial ideas are explored and developed. It focuses on the creative and innovative aspects, often setting the tone and the design direction for the entire project. And this is the stage that we would consider the most beneficial to think about alongside the early self-build architectural process. Here, focus is on the general spatial arrangement and the zoning of the landscape and how we integrate the client's wish list from the brief, as well as the overall kind of look and feel of the space, as this can also inform the architectural arrangement of the building. Consideration will be given to the plot setting, as this will help establish the materials to be used within the landscape, whether that's an urban setting, rural, or even a coastal environment. We will also review the sun path so we can understand how the sun moves around the building, where you receive morning sun and evening sun, and also inform the best locations for locating your seating and recreational areas within the garden. We also look at the topography of the site. Is it sloping? Will the house be located at the top overlooking the site or positioned at the bottom? How then do you move through the site and connect the spaces? We also look at the architectural style and what planting style would complement this. Would we be looking for a naturalistic or minimal contemporary approach, or would a more formal approach be better suited to the architectural style? We also consider the approach to the home and considerations given to how we create that kind of sense of arrival and this wow factor on the approach to the building. Do we need to integrate steps or ramps or pathways, and just how do they look and fit within the site? Also, we would think about the transition from the home out into the garden. Do you want to step out directly from your open plan, living space onto a paved patio, or could we introduce pockets of planting or potentially large planters, which could be introduced to soften the landscape and bring greenery up towards the house? We would also consider key views around the site and also from within the home, and look for ways to accentuate them. We can portray a sense of connection to nature by minimizing the visual barriers and the physical barriers between the interior and exterior. The arrangement of the windows and doors leading out to the garden can dramatically impact this. So, we consider that early on in the project as well, in the process as well. And by maximising the use of glazing, it'll allow views of the sky and the landscape to be drawn into the building. We also consider, borrowing views from the surrounding areas, such as, rolling hills or the countryside or coastal views. And this helps to visually connect the site out into the broader landscape. We also consider the nightscape, what does that look like? A general lighting strategy, it's good to consider at this conceptual stage as well. And with lighting, often less is more. Being selective with what to illuminate and playing with light and shadow will bring the landscape to life at night and also achieve a more dramatic result. Functional lighting is used to illuminate pathways and guide routes through the garden. And there are many ways to introduce these. You can use concealed lighting details or bollard and wall light fittings to create different effects. We also use external lighting to create the ambience within the space, and focus these around areas that you may be sitting within or dining in the evening. We also consider whether there are any features within the landscape that we could illuminate and create focal points within the garden, such as maybe statement trees or sculptures or interesting cladding details, just again to add depth into the space. Following the concept design and the client's review of that proposal, the design is then developed further and site specifics are addressed. And it's at this stage that the layout and the deliverables are agreed and are pretty much there as we begin to lock down on the options, and so we can then provide sufficient information to obtain initial budget costs for the design. And also here we would seek planning approval if this is required for the proposal. The detailed design stage follows on from the design development, and here we work up the final design ready to so we can firm up costs and also so we can provide information for the construction on site. The key aspects of the detailed design include producing, setting out construction information, providing any fabrication details for bespoke elements, whether that's bespoke bench seating, a water feature, outdoor kitchens, pergola structures. We will also finalise the specifications and firm up costs with a preferred contractor. Implementation is sorry, I've skipped a page. The implementation stage is where it all comes together, and we can oversee the installation and liaise with contractors throughout the works, procure planting and furniture and fittings if this is required, carry out plant placement, and provide guidance on how to maintain the new soft landscape that's just been installed. Considering the time and effort and cost that it will take to create your beautiful home, we find that the aesthetics and the attention to detail shouldn't stop at the threshold of the building, and that beautiful homes are worthy of show-stopping landscaping to soften and integrate them into their surroundings. As I mentioned earlier, engaging with the landscape designer earlier in the project will allow you to review your aspirations for the outdoor space alongside the architectural design process to achieve a holistic, well-balanced living environment. By designing the landscape alongside the home, you can ensure that both the building and the outdoor spaces complement each other in style, materials, and overall appearance. Integrating both designs from the outset means that they can influence each other and the aesthetic goals can be aligned to make the entire property feel cohesive and well thought out. Indoor living is an important factor to consider when designing the home, as it can enhance your connection with nature and in turn improve the well-being of the occupants. Early landscape planning allows for better utilisation of the available land, ensuring that the outdoor spaces are functional and easily accessed. Efficient zoning can help in determining the best areas for different functions, such as entertainment zones, relaxation, and utility areas. When it comes to affordability, it is vital to establish a landscaping budget early on in your project to ensure that the design aspirations are achievable. Considering the wish list early in the project and developing a master plan will allow budgets to be forecast so that adequate funds can be set aside for the work. It is beneficial to have a master plan for the grounds to ensure that the hard landscaping elements are well considered and in the right place. And then, if required, works can then be phased and each area, so that areas can be prioritised to suit the budget and constraints. For example, the hard landscaping, which forms the main circulation, the retaining walls, any steps and pathways around the property, these could all be carried out as phase one, along with any key structural planting, such as evergreen shrubs, any trees and hedging, which will help to define and soften the space. As it takes time for the planting within the gardens to mature, this would allow the natural elements to establish and add greenery and visual interest from the outset. And then from there, the planting can then fill out and be added to over time as required or as funds when funds allow. And we would always sit down and discuss these options with the client and advise on how best to proceed. Planning ahead will also relieve the stress and give you time to review options and make decisions. Not giving yourself time to realise the true potential of the site can add to frustration and result in rushed decision making. Alterations to the groundworks, such as relocating utilities or reworking hard landscaping elements, can be disruptive and costly. So when a landscaping master plan is in place, works can then be phased and carried out with confidence and certainty that everything is in the right place, and unnecessary retrofitting costs can be avoided. By coordinating the landscape works with the house build works, these disruptions can be reduced and the project timelines can be aligned. So it's therefore beneficial to be aware of the landscaping master plan during the groundworks phase of the house build. For example, if in the future you are going to be installing a garden pod to create an outdoor office or gym area, or maybe installing a hot tub or say an outdoor kitchen, it could be cost effective to run the services to those areas as part of the base build, whilst the subcontractor are on site already. And then once you're ready to implement these areas, the services like power, drainage, data, and water supplies can all be there in the areas waiting for the elements to be built. Also, areas of ground could potentially be levelled or excavated to create terracing, create sunken seating areas or even driveways at the same time as the initial build works, whilst the machinery and skips are already on site for potentially digging or preparing the house foundations. So the efficiency and of the construction workflow could save you time and help reduce costs if we just take that moment to plan ahead and look at the overview of the whole site. So when you're ready to appoint a landscape designer, here are a few points which you can think about to ensure that you get the most out of the process. It's good to define your goals and aspirations for the site, and also to be specific with what you'd like to include in your outdoor space and create a wish list. Think about how you'd like to use it. For example, do you need a play area for the kids with swing sets and trampolines and space to play football, etc.? Or how large would your dining and lounge areas need to be? Are you looking to create small intimate spaces, or do you need a larger area where you can entertain friends and family? Do you need provision for cooking outdoors or a space to grow edibles? Would you like to integrate water features? All of these elements just create this wish list of think about how you'd like to use the space. It's also good to share examples of designs, materials, or styles that you like, as from a designer's point of view, it is handy to see, what the clients like, and it helps to inform the design. And also it's helpful if there's anything that you strongly don't like, to let us know so that we can design accordingly. This could be, particular colours or particular plants and materials which you'd rather not use in your space. It can all be really helpful in the initial design stages. It's good to also identify your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves, and again, that helps us to focus and prioritise the wish list accordingly. When it comes to budget, it's always good to be honest about the budget and share this early on in the process to set realistic expectations and trust the designer to propose cost-effective solutions if needed. Engaging with the design process as well, it's great to just engage with that and be clear about your priorities and take on board your designer's expertise. Always be mindful and clarify how much maintenance and effort you're willing to invest in the upkeep. Many clients aspire to have low maintenance schemes, but however, due to the nature of the landscaping, there's always an element of upkeep required to keep the spaces looking good throughout the year. So it's always good to think about your landscape, how it will grow and evolve over time, and incorporate features that could potentially allow for flexibility, and how the spaces can adapt to your future needs. So I hope you found that overview helpful, and there's so much more we could go into, but I hope for now it's highlighted the importance of the outdoor environment and how it can be used to further enhance your home. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, MarieAnne. That was really helpful. One of the things you mentioned a few times about planning permission required, and it's not even, sometimes it's that planning permission may be required design, landscape design, but additionally we get more and more planning permissions that have sort of the planting schemes conditioned as pre-commencement or pre-occupation. So and that's often above a self-builder's even ability to understand how to put together a planting scheme, a maintenance scheme for those things. So there's a few sides to the planning conversation.
Yeah, and also if you're working within, existing mature gardens, we sometimes require to do a tree survey as well, because you can't just, there's some trees that are protected and you can't just, remove them without approvals. So we always, each site's completely unique, and we always kind of take all those points into consideration at the very start as well, and try and just be aware of as many, things that we need to, the tick boxes that we need to check, and make sure that we're doing our due diligence as well.
Absolutely. And Alan has joined us as well, so he will, he's going to help host the Q&A session. So as I mentioned earlier, please do use that Q&A function or the chat if you don't have it, to type in any questions that you might have. MarieAnne.
Yeah, there's no, I just reiterate that this is a great opportunity to get some free expert advice as well. So if anybody does have any questions on their projects, please put some questions into the comments or the Q&A. It was lovely to hear from you, MarieAnne, and some great examples and great pointers there. Just I think from our point of view, the one thing that it's something that gets missed, right? And it must be a frustration for you as a designer that it's not something that's on the sort of top priorities for the sort of add-ons for designers. And I think it's so important because we spend so much time in and out, right? And I think especially with COVID and everything, that's the way that we've changed. So, I mean, I think there's not really a question in there, but more a statement of how important it is. But I mean, do I presume that you'd agree with that, and it's you want people to be engaging far more early with landscape designers.
Yes, and I think because even thinking of like the approach from the home, I mean, even to get the building warrant signed off, you need the front door to be, or the entrance to be, or an entrance to be accessible. And most of the time it's front door, where you may get, changes in level, and they're just, you need a ramp, and it just becomes, to comply and tick the boxes. We'll just throw a ramp in, and we'll just put tick, we've done that. But the chances to just review that early on and say, well, how do we make that look? Do we increase the depth of the steps so we can build in planters, so it's a much kind of smoother, inviting, if there is a ramp, how do we weave it through the plant? That you kind of think of ways to integrate that. And also, as I mentioned, a lot of folk are going down the open plan living, and the kitchen, living, dining is all in one room, if you like, and it opens up onto that garden or onto that outdoor space. And I think if that transition is really inviting, and there's big open sliding doors, and you move out, and you've got your coffee in hand, and you just walk out, there's a wee coffee terrace, or just thinking about, would that door be better sliding, or would it be better bifold, or actually, it's in the architectural makeup of the building, are there ways that we can make it easier for the user and more inviting to, you know, make that transition. And even, you know, really what we do quite often as well is carry the same finish from that internal space to the external patio. You just get a different slip resistance on the tile, but visually it's the same finish, so it really kind of blends one to the other. So it's just really simple, easy tricks like that that you can integrate at the beginning, and it doesn't even need to be. I think my point, I'm not sure if I made it or not, but what I was kind of meaning is that even you just can think about it now, but you don't actually need to do the landscaping now. Just think, well, we know we want this. We know, you know, our terrace needs to have a table that seats 12 people, or someone might say, we just need a neat little table that, you know, we can have extending, so we don't need a massive patio. You know, it's thinking about all of those issues, or not issues, but wish lists, if you like, or things that you want to integrate that we can just be aware of, so that when we're designing it, it's almost, you know, you haven't thought, oh, I wish we just, why did we have steps coming out the door? Why didn't we just have a patio? You know, because it's really awkward, or it's trying to avoid kind of retrofitting or making mistakes that, or just not having the opportunity to maximize the use of the space.
Yeah. So what would your top tips be then on somebody who they've maybe even ran out of budget, they're halfway through it, they've not considered it yet? What would be the top tips to maybe limit abortive work or leave opportunities there whilst they've not paid for a landscape designer yet, they're already in, or they're on site, or they're through their detailed design? What would you say to them to say, right, these are the top things that you could do now that mean that you can stage this, or when you can save up, or you can use that VAT reclaim to spend on some of the nice things to have?
Yeah, potentially, I mean, services is a big one. And I think if you're thinking of the actual build cost, you know, if you're moving earth, it's good to move everything once, you know. So if you know, like, that we're going to have to build up the front of the house, otherwise we're going to end up with a flight of 20 steps, you know, nobody wants to do that. So if you're excavating earth, it's trying to look at the site and try and forecast what, you know, you could do to help yourself by doing it first time. So as I mentioned earlier, if you know, maybe not right away, but you do want to work from home, or you want this outdoor gym that you've always dreamt of at the bottom of the garden, you know, if you've already got electricians and plumbers on site running, you know, it's one trench down, the diggers are already there, you install your services, and then that's there and left for, you know, till next season or to a year, or but at least, you know, it's there for when you you want to adapt those areas. So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, it definitely does. And I think it's about using maybe forward thinking, saying, right, well, I might want to have lights on this fence, or I might want to have a hot tub at a later date on this point. So I'm going to run my conduit from my plant room. I'm going to get it right the way out, and I'm going to do some hard landscaping while I've got the diggers on site to form the levels. I don't have the money at the moment to put in the nice tiles or anything else, but I'm going to do that. So that's a really good bit of advice. And I mean, I think you didn't give any indications on cost, and I know it's such a big thing, right? But I think it's probably important to people to understand that we're not talking tens of thousands of pounds here for a landscape designer. We're talking hundreds for a small bit, thousands for maybe a full bit, dependent on a typical small scale house. But that I'm right in that. So we don't want to be putting people off, because I think there can be you fall into that category of the interior and the landscape, where people can be saying, well, I can't afford to have that. But I think in reality, people actually can, and they can go room by room, they can go portion by portion. I think that's really important for people to understand.
Yeah. And I think in terms of the landscaping, you know, hard landscaping, that's where the cost lies, and that's where you want to get that right first time, or at least think, okay, we've got a patio up here, but eventually we'll need a pathway down, and a patio, you know, you connect it, you kind of connect the dots, if you like. But with planting, like, it can be added to all, you know, so you just get your landscaping in, and then you maybe put a few of your structural trees, just so you don't end up, you know, finishing this beautiful house and then it's just a mud site, and then maybe like a hardcore driveway. Even just having some trees in to establish them at the early on. You may have like overlooking properties, or you know, just you want to get that screening developed fast, whether it's hedging or trees, or even just to soften around the entrance, or just something just that you can build on. But the hard landscaping is obviously elements that you want to get right the first time. And yeah, it can be phased if it's planned in the right way, and you know that what you are committing to and prioritizing within the budget, and you know that you're not installing something that it's too small or in the right place, or it doesn't get the sun when you thought it would, or you're in a shady spot and it's actually the slabs are always going mossy and green because it's really wet and damp. So it's kind of looking at the whole site and just saying, well, this is how we want to use it, so where's the best zones to locate these. And from an architectural point of view, make sure you've got the views out and how you create the views, and so that's kind of balanced and working with the landscaping that's there as well.
And what do you, if you're having a first conversation with somebody and they really don't know anything about it, or they're really early, what are you, out of a construction budget, what are you saying as percentage, or what in an ideal world, if they're wanting the landscaping hard and soft, they're maybe wanting a seating area, they're wanting it all to be connected and thought out, and lighting, and what would you say in terms of budget wise, percentage of construction cost, or is it too big a question to answer, or how long is a piece of string? But
yeah, it's quite difficult because it depends how bespoke you want to go. I mean, if you're working with footprints of patio, you can work out the terracing, the cost of the slabs, and the labor, you can kind of work that. But when you start going into bespoke like water features or retaining wall, it really depends on the site. But it's really dependent on the site and how much bespoke design elements you're introducing into it. It's kind of difficult to gauge it as just a kind of hypothetical.
I have just asked you the most annoying question that we get asked, so I just thought I'd pass it on to another professional on a live webinar.
I mean, what I do always say is that we can design to a budget if needed, and obviously budget's always taken into consideration, but the beauty of having external spaces is that it can keep evolving, and you keep adding to it, and you just keep adding the next phase and the next phase. It's not that everything needs to be there to make it functional, it's just that the bits that you are installing at the start are the necessary bits to make the space usable for you.
And so on that then, given if somebody's just starting out, what are your go-to sort of hardy species or your key points that you might say, right, well, I've got a tree in the front, a tree in the back, I've got some hedges, and I've got some soft landscaping that I'm going to line a bed with. Is there any sort of go-to things that you can point the viewers to?
Yeah, so pleach trees are brilliant for like evergreen pleach trees are brilliant for urban gardens where you want that kind of instant hedging, above the fence line. You're getting the framework and paying for the growth at head level. So things like laurel and fagus, that's your beech and your Portuguese laurel. They're brilliant for creating that lush, dense hedge at the top. We do a lot of quite naturalistic planting schemes where there's a lot of ornamental grasses, which give you that kind of movement and texture and blend the planting scheme together. But within that, it is always good to have like structural evergreens, like nice rounded like pittosporum or hebes are quite good for that as well, and they kind of keep their shape, and when everything kind of dies back and your perennials are coming up through, you've got this consistent kind of greenery through the winter as well, because the winter is the hardest season to make look decent in the garden, just with everything kind of dies back, but you do need to kind of have that form, so those are really good plants to use for evergreen structure.
I was nodding away like I knew anything that you're saying. I'm definitely not green fingered, unfortunately. No, that's really useful. And what would you say are the biggest mistakes that you see happening if people don't take the advice or they don't go with a landscape designer, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that people can? Because it's really important sometimes to see, well, if I don't do these things, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think it's just not thinking through the site and just rushing on, putting something there just to, as I say earlier, to just get the building, building warrant signed off because your house is accessible. It's or maybe just not thinking about the what's the word? Like choosing the appropriate specifications for elements as well. Sometimes some paving can be quite slippy, or it's just not thinking about the durability of products as well, or going for cheaper solutions that might, say cheaper composite decking, which maybe just doesn't last, but it looks the same when you first put it down, but then it bleaches in the sun. Or so it is. I think that is one of the main things I always kind of advise my clients on, is to kind of go for as high a spec as you can afford for the hard landscaping, because that is going to last you the test of time, and everything else can, furniture can be switched out, within 5 years, or once it gets tatty and like bleached in the sun. Or if it's timber, you need to keep staining that and treating it to maintain it from the weather, the elements. But your hard landscaping, you kind of want to do that and do that once. So it is good to push the budget up, or push your spec it as high as you can quality wise for that. And lighting, I think a lot of for what it creates within the landscape, to miss that opportunity to illuminate your space is really a big one, especially up here in Scotland at this time of year when it's dark at like 3:30. Just having that beautiful tree at the end of your garden illuminated, it's just so simple. It's just a power cable and a light fitting, but it just creates that wow factor, and it doesn't really cost, of the impact, it doesn't cost as much as you actually think it would. Or if you have, a really lovely cladding detail on this shell of the building, just creating that texture, and just, as I say, just choosing your light fittings and positioning them quite, it's not floodlight in the building, it's just being quite deliberate with what you're lighting and what you're knocking back, can be really effective as well.
Yeah, I definitely echo that, and the cost of putting something like that in and lighting, really nice lighting features now, you can get really, really cost effective. Team it up with Hive or some other control system, really simple control system. You can have a nice little feature that you turn the light on and you do expose that or feature that tree or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah,
definitely.
And even building the illumination into your details, like in your tread details on steps. So it's more an architectural installation, or you could have light fittings, like you say, like more decorative light fittings throughout the landscape, and that just adds something else to it as well. Yeah.
And I think finally, I think with getting to the end, what are your top trends? What do you think? What have you seen coming into the end of 24 and the start of 25? Is there any new trends that we should be aware of?
There's still a lot of kind of dark foliage coming in, that contrast with the dark, deep rusty reds and that coming in through it as well. A lot, like sustainability and, being efficient with the environment. The climate's changing, and there is a big movement towards, specifying and installing plants that do thrive in that setting. There's not so much rainfall in some of the areas now, and there was was it last summer, everyone's grass, I think, in the whole UK just went dried out and went that yellowy colour. So it is maybe reducing the amount of lawn if you can, and maybe integrating more drought tolerant plants, and it's just being a bit more, thinking more like for the climate issues as well, and designing towards that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks, Jenny. Is there anything else that's come to mind while we've been chatting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question for me is, it's hard to estimate sort of the cost of the landscape design, because that has so many variables. But in terms of professional costs, are there some, some reassurance that you can give to people that it's not, it's an important investment, but it shouldn't be a scary investment.
Yeah, and for different, like we offer different services as well, just for that reason. The one-to-one consultations are good for that point of view, because you're paying for a discussion and our advice that can then maybe allow you to think about and integrate what we've spoken about earlier, rather than committing to the full design or even just doing the concept design. So we stage it in a way that it is kind of phased, so that it gives the client that control as well. Our fees are kind of based on the areas, kind of, it's on a scale on like the size of the actual property or the plot. And again, that can then be broken down into front garden, rear garden, so we are really, we work with the client just to make sure it's achievable for them, and just that our advice service is there as a consultation if at the initial stage, they maybe can't commit to the full design at this point.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Well, on that note, I think I will finish up with some top takeaways that I was putting together as you were talking, MarieAnne, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much. It was really helpful. It was helpful for me, in addition to everyone else on today, to hear from you about a lot of the things you were talking about, and some considerations that I hadn't made about early involvement and the benefits of landscape design within the self-build process. So the top takeaways for me were: early involvement allows you time to make decisions. Hardscaping that you want to do once. So if you can get that into the design from early stages, then that gives you that assurance that you've made the right decision for you. And along those same lines, the coordination of groundworks and services with the main build project, if you've got an idea of what that overall landscape design is going to be, can be a huge cost savings and save a lot of headaches as well. Lighting is a very important consideration within your landscape design, and that ties back once again to the services that may be involved in order for you to achieve that lighting. And finally, just a reminder that planting schemes can be built up over time. So with the initial investment of the design and some of the groundworks and services, once, as Alan said, once you get that VAT reclaim back, then you can start to build up the softer landscaping, some of the structural landscaping, and fill it in over time, and it becomes a really lovely project for you and your family to continue with. So we will, as always, we will be posting this for people to revisit the video, or those who were not available today to watch the presentation live will be able to see it with the benefit of the Q&A session that was recorded afterwards. And all of MarieAnne's details were in her presentation, so those will be available for people if you want to get in touch with her. I'm sure she would love to speak to you specifically about your project. Next, we do have a few in-person events coming up. Alan will be at the HBR show in Farnborough. That is the 18th and 19th of January. So you can register for tickets through the HBR website for that show. Additionally, the NSBRC, I say it's the January show this year. It overlaps a bit with January and February, so we'll call it the winter show. But this is the 3-day show. It's the biggest show of the year here in Swindon at the National Self-Build and Renovation Centre. So opportunities at both of those shows to speak to experts within the self-build industry. And then finally, next month, we'll be here again, same time, the second Thursday of the month, which is the 13th of February at 1 p.m. We will be joined by our expert Iga from AC Architects, who will be talking to us about passive house principles. So we look forward to seeing you again next month. And in the meantime, please feel free to get in touch, and we look forward to hearing more about your projects, and good luck with everyone's project.